Have you ever thought of actually building a craft itself that could levitate?
Oh, yes. Actually, I have a lot of ideas on that. And I think the potential in that is pretty high.
Actually, what do you think would happen if you built a flying saucer and you started flying around Vancouver?
If I build a flying saucer flying around Vancouver, I am sure that, oh my, there'd be a lot of excitement.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, big excitement. And probably the police and everybody else again would be chasing me down.
Well, they would think it's extraterrestrials.
And they might start shooting at me.
They might start shooting at you, and then they'd find out it's you. Oh my God, it's John.
It's John, and what do we do now? He actually did it. John Kenneth Hutchison actually built a flying saucer. I think the realm of it is quite probable since I was studying some of the older experiments done by T. Brown, Podolinoff, and those folks. And what's interesting about Podolinoff is that the anti-gravity effects seem to go right down to the Earth all the way up to an unknown area.
Has anybody ever threatened your life? I mean, as far as like trying to possess what you have here, I mean, seeing it as a threat. Has anyone ever, like, threatened you and said that, you're on to something and you're not allowed to be doing this? And
no major threats. Mostly people saying, well, you should work for the U.S. government. That's a lot of emails I get are like that. And that they're ready and willing to stand by and give the funding out. But I've never been threatened. I've been also approached by religious groups saying, well, my duty is to continue on with this and make it a practical system.
Yeah, I mean, if you can levitate an iceberg, you could end a drought. I mean, you could land in a dry lake bed. You could change architecture.
The work that Hutchins has been doing, he has Tesla coils, he has Van de Graaff, and he has, very frankly, static electricity generators. Notice that data doesn't have to make sense.
Right.
Data just has to be truthful.
The truth.
That's right.
It's more important than proving Einstein right or wrong.
Okay, now his data showed everything from a chocolate milkshake snaking toward the top of his room, to bowling balls floating in the air. To I have all his data, and I've been following it. I am a senior scientist from Lockheed Martin. I have been a senior research engineer for Howard Hughes, Texas Instruments. Nevertheless, we've been working for some time now in order to determine where the next energy levels are going to come from. We now by that I mean we aren't talking about wind or solar or even atomic. We have other formats of energy that we've theoretically proven that are available. Not only that, but there have been significant developments, and many times the things that we look at and call UFOs are really some of the developments that we've been involved with.
That Lockheed has been involved with?
Show those three hatches that were open. Looks pretty good to us down.
So, are these some of the UFOs we're seeing? You believe are ours? They're United States military?
Well, Area 51 is literally where the majority of the things that we call the black program were developed, and many times sightings would occur directly associated with them. As I conducted tests, every now and then nature would not give us what we wanted, but it gave us something else. And I would sweep it under the rug because it didn't match theory.
So
after a while I said, that is not honest. That is not proper. You must record the data properly. And indeed, once you record the data, then you start modifying the theory. Einstein's work is only a slight modification of Newton's work. But we do understand that Newton's work has, Newton's work, for example, Newton says anything that's in motion tends to remain in motion, right? Okay, so I have something, and I'm taking it around counterclockwise. And see, and what Newton said is true. It just wants to go around and round and round and round and round. This particular thing is called a celt. It's clear plastic. There's nothing in it. Okay, now I'm going to take it around clockwise. It says, no, I don't want to do that. It's just like my children. I will do it my own way.
How did it go the other way?
Precisely. A Newton's law.
Is that because of the rotation of the planet, or?
Well, there
Can I try that?
You may. In fact, first of all, send it around counterclockwise.
Okay. And this is called a cell?
It is celt. C-E-L-T.
What's in it? Okay, there we go.
Nothing's in it. It's plastic. Okay, now take it around clockwise.
Okay.
And it says no, and it goes back the same number of turns you said.
I've never seen anything like that.
Now go out stronger. I know. See, I'm looking for the exception to the rule. You have to. If you can use language, you really need to convert it into mathematics.
Yep.
And calculate what your theory would say that it would do.
My theory is, like I've looked at, and on that CD I sent you, in bubble chambers.
Yes.
If you look at, they have a wedge sheet in this particular photograph. Super high frequency gammas strike the wedge sheet and through the photoelectric effect give off electron-anti-electron pairs. And there's two sets of pairs. And the electron has a longer wavelength and the anti-electron positron has a shorter wavelength, which means there's a differential between the electron and anti-electron pairs, which means one is stronger than the other if you convert it through a Planck formula or even Einstein formula.
Well, see,
and that means one of the clockwise and anti-clockwise would the differential between them would be one is stronger in mass energy equivalent. The other, like for example,
well, take that with you, and when you get together with your friends that agree with you, have them do the math, and I would like a copy of the math.
There's a differential.
A lot of people are doing nothing more than getting huge quantities of mass and see if they can get a gravity wave to cause things to move. Well, that isn't what we're talking about at all. So I wondered if gravity could be related to its cousin magnetism. And so I found that when I take two magnets together, I have some neodymiums around here that I'm actually afraid of.
They're so strong.
They can danger you. But anyhow, you take a magnet, you go to put them together, and they go clunk, right? But you take one of them, move it around, and all of a sudden it doesn't want to go together.
The repulsive.
So I got I ordered one at $5,000 a piece, with a 1/4-inch hole through between both of them, and I put a brass bolt and I tightened them down, forcing them together. And then I put them together in a thing that looks kind of like a rock. Okay, and then I got another one that didn't have magnets in it. And Galileo, in all his endeavors, he went up to the Leaning Tower of Pisa
and
he dropped a big rock and a small rock. And his buddy down at the bottom kept telling him that the large rock and the small rock arrived at the same time.
Well, in my left hand I have a feather. In my right hand a hammer. And I guess one of the reasons we got here today was because of a gentleman named Galileo a long time ago who made a rather significant discovery about falling objects in gravity fields. And we thought that where would be a better place to confirm his findings than on the moon. And so we thought we'd try it here for you. The feather happens to be appropriately a falcon feather for our falcon. And I'll drop the two of them here, and hopefully they'll hit the ground at the same time. How about that? That proves that Mr. Galileo was correct in his findings.
Well, I went up to in the Lockheed Building 501 by the side of escalators and elevators.
Oh, wow.
And I got I got 9 guys that were not educated and didn't have pre opinions on anything, and I dropped my 2 rocks, and I said, "What I would like you to do is," I told them, "what I would like you to do is I would like you to take whichever one arrives first, get it in your hand, and when I come down the elevator, hand it to me." Now they looked identical, except for
and nobody knew what was inside.
No, absolutely not. All the 9 times that I tested it, it's as though the one with the opposing magnet field extending out 3 feet on each side. I actually measured how
big the field is.
How big the field was, and on each side of one rock, I had a total of 6 feet. At any rate, the other rock arrived first.
Which one arrived first?
The one that had no magnetic field in it.
So you were able to cancel out gravity to a certain degree. You were able to cancel,
precisely,
reduce the mass gravity effect.
Precisely.
By opposing fields.
Isn't that nice? You bet. And got 9 signatures and I always skip.
You did that at Lockheed. What year was this?
At least 8 years ago.
This is the actual document of Boyd's where he proved that by altering the field in a falling body, the magnetic field, it reduced its mass gravity equivalent and canceled out the effects of gravity to a certain percentage. And he did a building 500 drop test conducted from a height of 59 feet. The location is in White Settlement, Texas, and the time was 12:20 p.m. and this was in 1995, December 12th. Nobody knows this.
I know it.
So mass gravity is not. You can alter it.
Gravity within itself has to have. Gravity goes through anything that is solid and anything like iron or anything else. But it has to have a magnetic component, which may be canceling out within itself. But as soon as it got around my rock, it all of a sudden recognized the presence of my rock.
One of Einstein's students tried to merge electromagnetism and gravity, and he rejected it. But he didn't have an experiment like you did.
No, I understand. I know that.
Yeah.
But see, nature never uses English. It doesn't speak. It doesn't speak any language. But yet it's talking to us all the time.
Right.
And the key thing is to identify what it's saying.
Does Lockheed Martin or does anybody possess working anti-gravity technology right now? Or are we still trying to understand how these ET craft are working? Have we reverse engineered the technology at Roswell successfully? Which would mean some of the UFOs we're seeing now that are silent and hovering.
I've given you the Lazar tapes. And that's as far as I can talk.
Okay. That's good.
It's only because I got the Lazar tapes from a White World forum.
Right.
And
but you can't say anymore.
Well, people kept encroaching on Area 51, such that Area 51 is now being moved to Tooele, Utah.
But here's one thing. This makes sense to me. If you can cancel out gravity in a falling body, and you can even reduce a percentage of the effects of gravity for aircraft, it would take less fuel, they would be more efficient, and they could hover with less energy, and that much I can figure out.
And the atmospheric edge of the Earth will be meaningless. Would you like to see a picture of the nuclear-powered aircraft?
Oh, yeah. What's the date on this one?
I refuse to say, but there's the nuclear pile that actually flew.
That hunk of junk right there flew?
It actually was in the belly, providing...
that was in the belly of that.
That's right. It's just like in the belly of a submarine.
Providing anti-gravity. So it's shaped like an aircraft.
Well,
it's aerodynamic. So that we don't think that it's not using its wings.
Well,
I get it.
It has an energy source, okay?
I understand.
And it is staying in the and here is
Oh my
Here's what it looked like down inside of the protective. It was.
And that's at Area 51?
No, much closer than we'd care to admit.
Oh, Texas. Well, I mean, Lockheed's of the contracts here was in the paper this morning. $27 billion in the last couple of years. Most of the majority of the defense contracts are here in Texas with Lockheed. I mean,
Well,
that's
certainly.
pretty much.
No.
Yeah.
That's why I don't mind having a retirement from them. And here was one of the old-time developments.
Oh.
Now, I happen to know the guy who put that together.
Mm-hmm. How far does this date back? March? No, Mach 1.2.
I know it doesn't say, but in actuality, it's way, way back. The first,
Really?
we must be at least 30 to 40 years.
60s? After the Roswell crash in the first week of July of 1947, it is alleged that the alien bodies in the craft are taken to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio. That's where the alien bodies in the craft were taken. What Boyd Bushman is holding up is a document that states that a reverse-engineered nuclear-powered flying saucer that has a ceiling of over 60,000 feet, a range of 3,000 miles, nuclear-powered anti-gravity saucer that we reverse-engineered from the alien craft, and he knows who did it. He's testifying. Boyd Bushman is the man who designed the Stinger missile for General Dynamics. He worked for Howard Hughes. He worked for 20 years. He was at Lockheed Martin. He had access to above top secret and top secret files. He knows how to develop and reverse engineer anti-gravity technology and is actually demonstrating it in front of us. And here we are for the first time in history. He is showing us proof that at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, we reverse engineered flying saucer technology. In 1959 was the first date this thing flew. I mean, this is incredible. He's giving us what no one has ever been able to find before. And, he won't say, that it was an alien craft, obviously. I mean, it could have been something that was ours. But if we have anti-gravity, if we've developed anti-gravity at Lockheed or, any level, secret level of the Black Ops, divisions of research, why aren't we using it in the war? Why doesn't the F-117 levitate? Or does the F-117 levitate?
Well, the key question from a physics point of view is a matter of another force. Mm-hmm. The question is are there more forces beyond the 4 or 5 forces that we're all acquainted with? Mm-hmm. The strong force, that's holding
the strong force, I understand that.
The strong force and weak force, electromagnetic force and gravity. Well, we have been under some development recently where the astronomers have begun to analyze the motion of galaxies apart.
Right.
And we have identified that indeed the galaxies are being impelled apart. Mm-hmm. We used to say at increasing velocities. The recent data and the better data says that there's still a repulsing force. Well, a repulsing force is an anti-gravity.
It's stronger than gravity.
Literally.
Mm-hmm.
Newton says for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction, right? Well, okay. If that's true, then I don't know. Don't let me get this thing lost, but if I let this fall on this carpet, mm-hmm. if I had a concrete, if its elasticity mm-hmm. was the same, then the best that it could do would be to come back to the same height that I drop it from, right?
Right.
And if it came out higher than that, then I would have violated Newton's law of equal and opposites, right? Okay, I need your hand. This is a standard tube, and you're going to catch these. These are magnets. Mm-hmm. Okay, now do notice that this is copper. Mm-hmm. It does not care about copper at all. It is not like iron. This one just
straight through,
right on
less
through.
than a second.
And this one,
1,002, 1,003, 1,004, 1,004 seconds.
No, that's true. So
you're canceling out gravity.
Well, by something that cares little about magnetism.
The two opposing forces in here.
It's a matter of what is the aluminum doing. Why does it care about moving electrons?
Right.
Similarly, over here, I have aluminum. I find that your sines, cosines, even the definition of pi, and you can put them in the expansion format.
Mm-hmm.
And if you add them all up, you get the correct definition of pi or sine and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
But it's usually meant for a binomial expansion. If you really, it's
Mass and energy are equivalent.
if you do nothing more than shove that into Newton's series expansion,
Mm.
you will, and you multiply it like Einstein did, by m0c squared. You multiply every one of the series expansion by that. Mystically, the first term, which is 1, when it's multiplied times m0c squared, is the large force. Because Einstein had V, and the c's cancel. It goes on ahead and basically shows that there are as many as 7 significant forces.
Really?
And the first, if you can include the kinetic energy, it turns out to be the first 5 we know.
Right.
The 6th, 7th, and 8th we don't know.
Right. So you're saying...
But we're taking the expression associated with the binomial expansion and taking a look at it. Up here, a picture of there's a rock up there. Next.
Yeah, I see that.
Well, that actually came whizzing past between the moon and the Earth about 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to come back again in 20 come back the next time in 2036.
So the
And
orbit is
actually,
decaying.
It will collide someplace between Siberia and Africa, and
Oh,
it
no.
will be there. We know it. We're tracking it.
Oh my
And
God.
I said, and number 6, veer its orbit. No, because I 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Notice that it floated above the aluminum.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, something mystical inside the aluminum was doing something like happened inside of copper.
You can't run current through aluminum like a wire.
Yeah.
And traditionally it's said it's non-conductive, but actually you're saying it is conductive.
Well, something occurred. Actually, what's happening is that this only works if it's AC electricity,
Alternating current.
alternating current. Okay. And walked into the craft. Evidently, one of them was out walking around because there were only 3 when he was in.
3 aliens at that time?
And he walked in, and they were all 4 feet and under. But he could see through the walls of the craft from the inside out.
Whoa.
And it kind of...
Translucent material.
And the material he was stepping on was spongy, he said. It wasn't...
So what about this liquid wall at Roswell?
Well, if you will follow your friend...
So do you think we'll survive global warming? Do you
The
think
question is there life? The people...
Well, Paul
But see, Einstein simply said you cannot communicate beyond the velocity of light using photons.
But action at a distance proves that
But
there's
let's say
instantaneous
that, and if I had a blind Einstein, he said you couldn't travel faster than the
Right.
velocity of sound.
Right.
If a seeing blind Einstein says you can't travel faster than the velocity of light.
Right, I guess so.
But if thoughts can
Right.
travel faster,
Right.
then he would say
There's another
you
force.
can't travel faster than the velocity of thought.
That's incredible. Action at about spooky action at a distance.
Yep.
And singularity.
Now that's you tied them all together. It worked in your mind.
Because Paul Dirac said in this,
Perfectly right.
when Paul Dirac saw the birth of electron, anti-electron, electron-positron pairs coming from super gammas, that he believed he found this substratum to the universe that was non-dual. It was pure negative. And I don't even know if it was really negative. It was just single. And he said, my God, if you could become one with that, you could be anywhere in the universe in 0 time because there's no resistance in that singularity because there's no polarity.
Well, there is another universe called the neutrino universe, of course.
Right. Neutrinos.
And we know that not only that, we know that we know that what we have is we're about 5%. Everything that we see is about 5%. And then there's dark matter that we don't see.
Right.
And then beyond that is about 70% of dark energy. And that's what we're talking about. The energies that we don't now have cataloged. And we don't have name, and we haven't done critical tests on them, and we're just barely beginning to start operating.